welcome to episode 90 of New Money Talks.
Perfect. That was on the first take too, so that was
Does it normally take a lot of, what's the average?
The average I think is like 2 to 3. Usually it's like, they're like, oh, this is easy, and then you just like, oh shit, that was harder than I thought.
I mean, I was nervous when you said you're going to introduce it. I was like, how long is it going to be? But it was really like 6 words, so it was okay.
It's funny, this started probably around episode like 13 or 14. The guest was just like very outspoken person. It's like, I want to intro the file. It's like, all right, cool, let's do it. He did. I was honestly, that's kind of sick. We can break it up like that.
Yeah, nice.
But anyways, super excited to have Michael Fischer on the podcast today. Michael Fischer is a fellow, I would say, California graduate of college. He went to Stanford. I went to Berkeley. I checked out your link.
I'm your arch rival.
You're my arch rival. Whenever I see someone from Stanford, I'm like, that person's sick, but also fuck that person. But no, super excited. I think we're trying to get the schedule for a few weeks now, but I think you've been in the space, in like the CPG space, for a few years now. You have an awesome brand that you're working on. You just told me that you're in local ShopRites here as well too. The way I like to kind of start this off is like, if you were to meet someone at a bar randomly and they were asking you, hey, who's Michael Fischer? Kind of explain to the people who you are, what you do. We'll kind of start the conversation there.
Yeah. So I'm the founder and CEO of Rotten. Rotten is a better for you candy brand. And we are based in Los Angeles. I'm in Santa Monica. Have stayed very local to the West Coast. I grew up in San Francisco. So I left California for about a year of my life and then came back. So haven't gone very far, but yeah, super excited to be chatting. Other fun fact, I have a dog, a Doberman. He's very cute. He takes up too. But yeah.
I love it. Well, tell us about the brand too, because it looks like once you graduated from school, you kind of did some work at a place called Carewell. You're head of growth there. And then it looks like you launched a brand around 2 years ago, a little under 2 years. I'm curious, like, how'd you think of the brand? Obviously, it's like, I feel like it's every kid's dream to have a sour, gummy, candied brand, right? And essentially you're selling candy, which is pretty sick. I'm curious, like, kind of what made you think about, like, start the company? Did you have other options of other companies to start? And just like kind of gives a background how we ended up at Rotten.
Yeah. So after school, I joined what was called the Venture for America Fellowship. This was Andrew Yang's nonprofit that he started, which was kind of all about trying to bring young people to emerging cities in the U.S. and build startup ecosystems there.
Okay.
So, after seeing kind of what tech and startups and that culture did to places like Silicon Valley, or even as it expanded into cities like New York and Austin, etc. Really wanting to like help develop that type of growth and progress in other cities, and trying to get young people out there to go work in startups and then ideally start their own companies there. So joined that fellowship and moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and as you said, worked at Carewell. Carewell's an e-commerce company in the home healthcare space, and I was one of the first 2 employees there and just had probably the most fun year of my life working there. I think just like early stage startup experience, like being able to do anything, being able to be like super proactive and take initiative was awesome. It wasn't limited to like, here's your role and responsibilities and, you're very narrowly focused on that. It was like, you are, one of 5 people here, like, let's grow. How are we going to do that? And being able to feel like I was a part of that was super exciting. And I think on the eCom side, I loved that e-commerce allowed me to try a lot of different things, whether it was a new ad we were going to run or a new copy on our homepage on the website,
For sure.
Sending out an email SMS campaign. These are all like different things that we could do, set up relatively quickly and get results back almost immediately and grow from there. So like the feedback loop was really fast. So I loved that. COVID hit, ended up moving back to California, and knew I, wanted to start my own company after having such a fun experience with Carewell. And the candy piece was really just came out of like not being able to find what I was looking for at the time. So I'm the youngest of 4 siblings, copied everything they did essentially. And my brother was a huge candy fanatic. And
was it really, what does that mean, being a candy fanatic? Like collecting candy?
Like just like always eating candy, like always eating gummies. He was, like bulk ordering them on Amazon, which then when I went to college, I started doing, and like, sharing candy in my dorm, and candy was very present. And so like that rubbed off on me too. And I think, like a lot of other people though, as you get older, you start being more aware of what you're eating. I remember also in college, I read an article about added sugar and what that was doing to our health and diets, and really started cutting back on sugar at that point. Like I cut out soda. I still don't drink soda, and I really started cutting back on candy, but I missed those fun moments that I would eat candy, whether it was like watching a movie with friends or on a road trip or just to like unwind in the afternoon. I missed those fun, indulgent moments. And so started looking for, 0 to low sugar options out there that would better meet my needs, and didn't love what I found. I think I didn't love the products. They felt like too much of a compromise from what I was used to. And then I also just didn't resonate with the brands and how they were positioning the products. Like everything just felt like diet candy. It looked like diet candy. And even though I was wanting this lower sugar, healthier option, I still wanted my candy to like be that fun candy. And so with Rotten, like tried to really address both of those. Like one, making candy that doesn't feel like it's a compromise at all from what you're used to. And then 2, building a brand that honestly, in a lot of ways, is the exact opposite of what people might expect from a better for you health and wellness type brand. And in that way, like, surprising people and really kind of standing out in the market.
Definitely. And I'm curious, you said you launched the brand around 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago?
Yeah, we launched 1.5 years ago, but I've probably been working on it for close to 4 years now.
Well, that was my next question. Like, how long ago before the launch did you think about doing this? And like, what was that process like to even get from idea, hey, I want to do this, to actually launching?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, it took a long time to launch. So yeah, I've been thinking back now. Yeah, I've been working on this for just over 4 years. But we launched 1.5 years ago. We launched at the end of 2023. So definitely a long roadmap to launch. I think the way it started actually was I was working on a few different possible startup ideas at the time. And I started making gummy worms at home in my kitchen.
You make gummy worms, like actually in your kitchen?
It's actually like not that hard to make something that it's not going to be shelf stable. Like it won't keep for very long, but just like using gelatin and various, flavorings and
interesting. So you can make homemade gelatin.
Yeah. And like, I did not formulate our product. I'm not a food scientist. That's not what we launched with, but it ended up being a helpful exercise for me to just like understand how candy is made, like what are the various components that are going into it and what you can play with. At that time, I also started holding like focus groups where I would get together groups of like 20 people, whether they were from high school or college or from the Venture for America Fellowship. And I would ask them questions about candy, about healthy candy, healthy snacks, how they thought about their diets. I would show them like different brands and packaging and ask them what they thought of that. And ultimately found that a lot of other people felt similarly to me in that we were just generally wanted to eat healthier. Like it was a goal of ours to eat healthier. It's a goal to reduce the amount of sugar we're eating.
What is up, New Money Talks fam? Super excited to tell you about our awesome sponsor today, it's actually my business, Ship Dudes. Check us out, shipdudes.com. I don't know if you guys knew this, but I've been running a 3PL for over 5 years now. We have locations all over the country and have helped amazing brands go from just an idea to shipping hundreds of thousands of orders. We've even helped brands launch into retail like Vitamin Shop, Target, Costco, and Sephora. If you're an awesome e-commerce founder, but you're not happy with your 3PL partner or your operations in general, reach out to us. Check us out, shipdudes.com. If you're a founder who's shipping orders out of their garage or their mom's basement, trust me, I've been there before. Hit us up. We can definitely help. Shipdudes.com. And lastly, if you do book a time with us, make sure you put in the notes that you came from New Money Talks. We will definitely take care of you. I've even given free fulfillment months for people coming from the pod. So anyways, appreciate you all. Check us out. Sponsor for this video is Ship Dudes. And back to the pod.
But when confronted with something that's called healthy candy or that looks like healthy candy, it's off-putting. It looks like it's not going to taste good. So we kind of took that idea with Rotten, and so we built a brand that, you know, the product inside is the healthier candy. It has lower sugar. It has prebiotic fiber. But the packaging doesn't scream healthy. Like, you know,
it doesn't. It screams like I'm 6 years old and I want to get like sour.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So like the goal is like, you know, you're wandering a grocery store, you scan the aisle, and you know, we want Rotten to just look like a fun candy brand, and we want that to be the reason you're drawn in.
Sure.
You think if it looks like a healthy candy brand, it looks super clean, there's actually a lot of people that aren't even going to come over to it and interact with it.
Did you figure out that kind of piece of knowledge there?
I think that's how I felt. And then in these focus groups, again, was hearing the same thing where it's like, we all want to eat healthier. Like there was a study done, they do this every year, and the most recent result is 76% of Americans report wanting to eat less sugar.
Okay.
So we all want that. It's just like, how do you build a product and position it in a way that people are still going to want to eat it? And I think in a category like candy, where people might be turned off by things that look super healthy because they think it's not going to taste good, it's like, great, well, how can we just be this fun candy brand still? And get them to try us, and then they'll see that we actually do taste incredible.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do want to like dig into like, how do you even go from idea of candy to making the actual candy? Like, are there candy manufacturers? Like, how many did you have to like, have you visited them before? Like, how many did you have to actually to visit? Like, what do even like MOQs look like to like make candy? I feel like a lot of CPG brands, they kind of have like supplements and beauty and this type of stuff, but like I feel like candy's kind of from the outside looking in, like it looks like it's harder to actually get from idea to finished good in a sense. How'd you find a manufacturer? Did you like just start Googling it? Did you visit places? Like, how'd you pick one that actually made sense? I'm curious too.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was like the super challenging phase of the company. So after kind of like validating that what I felt was shared by other people too, we ended up doing a Kickstarter campaign. The reason that I did that was I started talking to a lot of people, like reaching out to anyone I knew who was in CPG, or asking friends of friends who might be in CPG, DMing people on LinkedIn who were in the space and asking to chat with them. And I got the sense, kind of what you're saying, that candy was a category that was going to be really hard to get manufactured. There wasn't a lot of like open manufacturing supply. And then that it was also going to be expensive and the minimums were going to be high. And so I was kind of faced with that reality and wanting to validate my idea a little bit more before going and, you know, spending money on something and spending a lot of my time on something, honestly. And so the Kickstarter was a great way where we were able to like put out this fun video that represented the brand well. We had like mock packaging made. We had like, you know, our formula wasn't even finished. We had a rough idea what the nutritionals were going to be like and what the product would be, but again, hadn't finished the product at all. And we went and launched with that to see if like, are people into this concept? Are they going to give us money for it? And that was a big success for us, and took that and kind of dove into continuing the project. And I mean, finding manufacturers was its whole own battle. Like the amount of time I spent trying to find the right partner there was probably like my main task at the time.
Sure.
And I did everything. Like, you know, when you're Googling and going through every single search result, every page, starting to like go through state databases of like any businesses that are classified in candy, and, you know, 99.99% of the places I called were like random candy stores that don't manufacture, but it was like, I was not going to leave any stone unturned.
Well, you're pretty humble about it too, but like as you're talking, I pulled up to Kickstarter actually, and there's actually a sick video of here as I scroll down, and you're like eating a gummy quarter, you're like, oh wow, this is amazing type of thing. But it looks like you were 100% funded in like 4 hours. So
yeah,
it looks like you raised like $40,000, which is like 4 times above the goal in a sense. So I call that a success, you know?
Yeah. No, it was a big success. And the group of backers from that Kickstarter, they ended up being like an awesome kind of early customer base and support network for the brand. So like we were able to work with them on product development and brand development, packaging design. And so it was, I think also like as a solo founder, just the more like people I can involve, feedback I can get is always helpful.
Would you recommend for like new founders to use something like a Kickstarter, like an Indiegogo to launch? I'm curious because like you did it and like looked like it worked out. Is that like a good way to kind of test waters in a sense?
Yeah, I think in some ways, I think it can be like you should go in with a clear idea of like why you're doing it, what your goals are. I think the platforms are not ideal for food. And so I think for us, we went in just trying to validate the idea. It wasn't like trying to fund the company for the next year and our production run and everything. And so I think for us, it was a great fit for what we were looking for. So I think it just depends on what you're trying to achieve.
Definitely. And then like I'm curious, from that Kickstarter launch, how long was that time period?
2 years maybe.
So you like product development was just like an animal for this business.
Yeah. So we struggled with product development. We had issues that delayed it. And then once we finally got to a place where we were ready, manufacturing supply for gummies was super tight. So as I'm sure we're all well aware, like gummies have just become very popular, whether it's a vitamin gummy or just like a, straight candy gummy. The category is growing a lot. And during COVID, the lead times for manufacturers to expand capacity and get new machines to meet the additional demand was just so long. So it was a moment in time where it was just really hard to find anyone that had open capacity to make our product for us. And so, we ended up expanding our search outside the US, and we went and did a trial in South America, and that wasn't successful. And ultimately we were able to, work with a partner here in the US and get the product made. But it really was, thinking it's funny to like think back because things are so different for the business now, but it was, those were, I think, probably some of the hardest moments, like mentally as a solo founder, because I'd already spent so much time and, so much of my identity was wrapped up in this, and people were following along and wanting to see the product. And then you're like,
Mike, I need this to work. You're like, I need this to work. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, like, the doubts about like whether we would even launch the product, which like, it's so funny, like all the work required to get to the start line. And so for so long, I was just like, God, I just want to like get there. I'll be happy if like I can just get a product out. Like, who knows what will happen from there. even if it's a huge failure, like I'm going to be so
Definitely
proud of myself just for even getting to that point.
Yeah. Well, tell me about what happened when you did get there. Because, like, obviously the business has been around for 2 years. I'm assuming it's been doing well in a sense. Where did you kind of get your first customers from? From a sales channel perspective, what does that look like for the business too? And I'm just curious, you're like, all right, we made the product. It tastes good. It looks good. It feels good. Now we got to find customers that actually want the product. What did that look like? How'd you kind of get your first customers? Like, what did traction look like too?
Yeah. So we launched as a direct to consumer business. So we launched, selling exclusively on our own website, followed up with Amazon a little bit after that, and then didn't kind of pursue retail until later. We found customers through social media, like organic, and through, paid social. We had a little bit of a, built-in audience already from launching the Kickstarter and, sharing updates kind of throughout, whether it's, on my LinkedIn or on the Kickstarter page. Like we had people following along, we had an email list, so definitely leveraged that. I think like the early days were really about, you think you've done all this work to get things in a good place to launch, but until you like really are out there selling in a real way, there's just a lot you don't know. There's a lot you're going to need to fix and improve. And so honestly, launching was just like a great learning for us. By launching online, we had a really kind of close relationship with our customers.
Sure.
So, talking with them through customer service on social, et cetera. And like, we're able to, at that point, like the early days of Rotten were about reformulating our product. So like improving the candy, we changed our packaging completely, redesigned it. We did a brand refresh even, and like updated our branding and like all things that have been super important to get us to the point we're at now, where, we feel good about the product sitting on a retail shelf.
Definitely. And you said you started DTC first, all right?
Yeah.
Like we were talking before, and you're in a bunch of ShopRites, and what other retailers are you into? If I could ask.
Yeah, we're in ShopRites, we're in Safeway, Fresh Time, Hy-Vee.
Nice.
Lots more exciting launches coming this year too.
So I'm curious, as like a D2C first brand, how'd you kind of break into retail? And like also, do you think it's worth getting into retail too? Because I know like this is the joke, obviously, like half of the battle is getting in, like on the shelf, like the harder part's getting off the shelf, like actually selling.
Yeah.
Like, so how'd you do it? And like, is it going well? Like kind of your experience with it too.
Yeah. I mean, I think starting online was a big key to our success. Again, because it allowed us to evolve and improve on kind of everything we were putting out there really quickly. And I think, as you're saying, you don't want to go into retail if you're not going to sell. And so I think for us, starting online, figuring out what worked, what wasn't working, and what we needed to fix before doing retail was really key. Our earliest retail partners actually reached out to us. So one of the first partners we went into was Foxtrot. And we also went in fairly early with Hy-Vee. Both have been awesome partners that we're continuing to work with today. So I think for us, it was definitely like starting in a small way. And again, I'm totally new to retail. And so for me, it's been like drinking from a fire hose, of just like learning how everything works, we've gotten so much better at pitching ourselves to get on shelf. We're getting better about what are all the things we can be doing to get off shelf and sell. So I think a lot of it has been like start small and learn. And then once you figure out what's working, at least for us, we like hit the gas pedal and scale on that.
I'm curious. Like, I know I've been in e-commerce for a while. A lot of people do talk to our e-commerce, and like I feel like it's more straightforward, like we run an advertisement to a landing page, someone goes on a landing page, buys the product, you get paid, you ship the product. I think in retail, people don't really understand how to get product off the shelf. So I'm curious, like you said, like, hey, we're learning kind of how that works in a sense. I'm curious, like, what are some learnings that you've learned over the last, say, year being in retail that, like, hey, you should try this, this could work, this worked for us and stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, I would say the like most foundational level is going to be your packaging. Yeah. So what's very different about retail compared to eCom is you don't have this product page to be sharing information. All you have is that 4x6 or 4x5 inch little bag on the shelf, surrounded by other brands. So being very intentional about package design, and how big certain things are, what you're prioritizing, what messaging you're using, how it looks, what type of film is it? Is it glossy or matte? Is it soft touch, which might, look more premium? All these decisions are like very foundational. I think like the most crucial thing, because at the end of the day, you strip everything else you're doing. You want to have packaging that is going to, at some level, sell itself. Communicate the benefits, attract the right customer over, and sell itself. I think beyond that, there's like a lot of different things you can layer on. You can be doing different shopper media things, whether that's like Instacart or DoorDash. There's promo activities in stores you can do, going on sale, getting yourself on, secondary displays. And then I think the other big thing that we've seen, which is super exciting, is just how big of a lift like a strong eCom presence has for retail. I think one like great shift in the marketing space has been just like trying to look at things more holistically and not looking at channels in a silo. And so for us, like we do track eCom performance as a channel in eCom, but we're also super aware of the demand it's generating for us in our retail locations as well.
Definitely. And I'm curious too, like, are you tracking that piece at all too, or you just like have an intuition that like obviously we're spending on Google, Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that should be driving to the store as well too?
Yeah, there are some tools now for testing what that lift looks like and like doing geo holdouts. We have not started doing that yet, but I'm definitely curious to. I think it's just like we hear from customers that are like, oh, I just bought this in this store because I've been getting ads for it. And the ads are all, they're for our eCom site. We're not advertising retailers. But it is definitely a priority. I think as we scale and we're in a lot more retailers, like really kind of drilling down on what our eCom channel is doing for driving retail is important.
Like obviously share whatever you're comfortable with, but like from like a size of the business, like what would you say the business is at, like door wise or retail door wise, stuff like that? So I'm just curious.
Yeah, so we're in over 2,000 doors right now. The funny thing about CPG, which I just wasn't aware of before, is like sometimes how hard it is to actually know where you're sold. The way the industry works is there's, often distributors between you and the retailer, and sometimes multiple distributors. And so we don't actually know for certain exactly where we're sold, but from the data we do have, it's over 2,000, which is super exciting. I think starting from, 6 to 9 months ago being in maybe 50 to now being in over 2,000.
That's scary.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like financially, what has that done to the business? Like, is that double, triple the business in a sense overnight? Like, I'm just curious, like the power of that retail it's kind of had on the business too.
Yeah, I mean, like we've grown. It hasn't even just been a retail story. Like our eCom channel has grown a lot as well. Even with that many doors, we're still majority e-commerce today. We're in a big transition period of that changing. But the whole business has grown.
Sure.
Without sharing exact numbers, has grown dramatically.
Definitely. And you're also a solo founder as well too, which is always like, it's just sick because like there's obviously no one you can talk to other than I guess yourself. Obviously we could talk to, but I'm curious, like you've obviously built a team around you, and I'm like curious to know like kind of what that team looks like as well too, and who were some of like the first hires or like first good hires that you're like, oh, I need to have someone like this, or maybe you have maybe it's just you.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know like kind of how the team is built as well.
Yeah. So until 3 weeks ago, it was just me.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Thank you. It was definitely getting unmanageable, and also just getting to the point where we are having so much success. Things are working, and like it's a super exciting time to be able to bring new people in, so that it's not just me pushing my vision for the future of Rotten, but like we have a whole team of people adding to that and doing that as well. So we've made a few hires now. Some are starting next month, still hiring a little bit, but should have kind of a core team of 5 to 7 people a couple of months from now.
Sure. Can you show like what kind of positions you think you're hiring to, like daily work and task type of stuff?
Yeah, it's essentially like we've hired leaders of every department. So, head of marketing, head of sales, head of operations, finance, kind of all of those.
Yeah. And I guess you just like trying to find people who have more experience than you and kind of letting them just do what they have to do.
Yeah, definitely. It's, I think a key is like finding people who have, who can thrive in like the early stage startup environment. So, sure. Which I think ideally means they've been in an early stage startup, or if not, like maybe they're evaluating going and being an entrepreneur themselves. And so like they really want that type of environment.
Another question I usually ask too is like, I'm curious of like your like evolution of a founder from like you just being like, hey, my brother likes to eat candy, we should launch a candy brand, to like you being in 2,000 doors right now. You're obviously like, I would hope you've changed and kind of molded to the business, and like obviously you're gonna have to change that with more employees. I'm curious like kind of what that evolution of a founder looked like as well too, and like kind of where you think you need to like what are some of these you need to like work on and become, like have this business kind of keep growing and for like 8-9 figures type of thing too. I'm curious.
Yeah, I think that's like the fun of the role, is that every few months it like kind of completely changes. So right now it's a big transition as we're adding team members, is like getting out of the weeds myself and the day-to-day for a lot of things, and like being able to think more about how can I support the team, and then how can I be focused on strategy and innovation, and coming into support on day-to-day things as needed, but like not being the one responsible for them. But even in the role as just myself, like what I had to focus on was still changing every few months. Like it's not just adding team members that's changing my role. It's like constantly been changing. And like I said, I knew absolutely nothing about retail six months ago probably. And I am not an expert now, but I know a lot more than I did. And like, I'm going to all the trade shows. I'm selling into accounts. I'm looking at trade spend, all these things that had no clue what they were before. But that's the fun. And then, hopefully I'll be in a transition period soon to be thinking about new things.
Sure. Nice. 100%. I think this is also some like actionable stuff I like to like add in the pod too. Are you a big like So do I use agencies a lot, or like kind of just try to do everything in house? I'm curious. Are you more agency focused, kind of more in house focused when it comes to just like marketing, design, product, stuff like that? So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Totally depends.
Okay.
I think definitely to start out, like, agencies, freelancers, very helpful because, it's just more flexible and we're not committing necessarily to full time. I think as we're growing now, it's definitely something top of mind for me is what do we absolutely want to have in-house and what are we fine using an agency for?
Well, I'm going to ask you that. Give me an easy question to ask them. Like, what are some of the things you think you should keep in-house?
Yeah, I think like creative, like for example, creative and strategy. Like let's say we're thinking about like social media, for example.
Sure.
I want the creative and strategy behind our social media to be in-house. But in terms of like production of actual videos, to me, it's not important to build a core function for video production inside our company. So that's like an example of how I would think about that.
No, that makes sense. And I think now, like, as paid ad get more expensive, it's all about obviously creative and testing more creative and pushing ads out and stuff like that, which I'm sure you've seen. So I've heard that answer multiple times in the last like few months. It's just like all about creatives and building kind of better hooks and just finding ways to creatively get people to like click and come to the site, stuff like that. So I'm sure you're doing the same type of stuff too. The other thing too is apps. Like I think that like I've always had really cool experience with like Shopify apps that like I've like added XYZ app to my store and like I've increased my AOV or like we've done subscriptions, stuff like that too. I'm curious of like 2 or 3 apps that like you think have been pretty game changer for the business that like people can check out as well too, that like they're like, oh shit, this is like a pretty cool app. App or service or agency, just like people you think are like, oh, this has been sick, it's actually like changed our business. I think other people check it out too. Do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, I think one that we use fairly common, it's after sell. So like post-purchase, upsell, cross-selling, fairly easy to implement and can really kind of just be a value add, again, increasing AOV. Another one is we use a pop-up app called Alia. And
I know the guy who's in New York. Yeah. He's been popping up lately a lot.
Yeah. So they've been great. Like the team there's like helped us out.
Explain it to me a little bit, because like just a pop-up, right?
Yeah, it's a pop-up. I mean, you can do a little bit more with it in terms of like when we first launched with it, we had kind of like an education flow around the product to kind of get to the discount.
Sure.
Right now we're using it in a little bit more of a basic way, but the teams there has been great about helping us kind of manage it and, do some white glove service.
That's awesome. Okay. So anything else you think is awesome too? Like, and you can't say like Shopify or Klaviyo, like those just don't count.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's why I'm not. That I can think of, no.
No, under you. Anything in like retail specific though? I'm curious of that too. Like DTC, yes. Like anything like tool wise, you're like, oh, this has been awesome for retail.
Anything we haven't started using like that many yet. We're starting to look into some of the like sales forecasting and trade planning tools.
Sure. You were saying trade shows too. I know it's not really an app, but like I've trade shows been good for you guys too.
Trade shows have been great. I think being smart about how we do them, like this year we're investing a lot in trade shows because we're new. We have a new product that most people haven't tried yet. So it's paying off for us to just be showing up a lot.
Sure.
But I think that strategy may change over time.
And those trade shows aren't cheap either. It's like you definitely have to invest some money into them.
Yeah, money. I mean, and like significant time, like even just dealing with like every trade show, getting all of our stuff there is like this whole process in and of itself. It's not simple.
I hear you. No, I think this has been awesome. Anything else you'd like to share too, that like, if say you're a founder like a year or two out of college, kind of like yourself when you started, you're like, I don't know what to do. Like, any piece of advice that you think is worth sharing that like someone to share with you, you know?
Yeah, I think like two things. Get something out there quickly. I think it maybe more of a thing in tech than with physical products, because like people want to perfect the physical product. There's maybe a little less of a culture of like launching an MVP. But no amount of testing you're going to do with groups of people before launch can replicate like having something live on the market available for anyone to buy.
Sure.
And leave feedback for you online. And so like get to that point and start improving the product, and know that there's going to be a lot of improvements to make. I think the other one is like share about what you're doing in public.
Okay.
Everyone talks about building in public, and a lot of it didn't resonate for me. Like at the time, building in public was very Twitter focused. I don't use Twitter. I couldn't get myself to use it. Then it was like, oh, be sharing all about it on TikTok. But like, I also like, I don't want to make videos. I just couldn't get myself to do it. I don't like using TikTok personally. So it was just a burden. And then like, I think finding for me what ended up being like, you know, writing posts on LinkedIn about the process building Rotten, like finding that has just been super helpful for our business and helpful for me to like reflect on what's been happening. So I think like build in public, but know that there's so many ways you can do that. And so just like find the way that works best for you.
No, thanks for that. I think so that's definitely a cool nugget that like, I've not been really good at either kind of building in public, but I do think it's a cool exercise to kind of, like you said, reflect on what you've done. And also, I'm sure there's been somebody that's either become a customer of you guys or has like kind of learned something from what you've written. So I think that's a pretty cool piece of like a nugget right there. Yeah. Like, where can people find you too if you want people to find you too? Where's the best place for people to find you?
Yeah, so you can find us on our website, which is eatrotten.com. We're on Amazon, and then we have a store locator on our website too if you want to check out where we might be near you.
Yeah, Safeway, ShopRite, actually you got stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to check you guys out. If they want to connect with you, like, where's the best place to reach out to you too?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn, where you can see my building in public posts. So definitely feel free to connect with me on there.
That's good. I appreciate the time. And for all the people listening out there too, appreciate you guys. That's episode 90. Check out Eat Rotten. Honestly, I'm going to go try this right now. I'm going to go to ShopRite and see if we can find it here. So if I can, I'll send you a paper. This has been awesome. Michael, I appreciate the time, man. And for all the listeners, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Appreciate you guys. Check you guys on the next episode. Peace. Bye.